So I rushed to that hospital within the next 5 minutes. By the time they procured a torch. But the poor doctor did not know what he could do with the torch. He did not know what were the 4 stages of Hutchinson's pupils and what their significance was. Why it's so important to take the vital signs immediately after head injury so that you could actually evaluate the patient's progress in the next few hours and days. I don't blame him. That he graduated from the medical schools in this state and in this country is a shame on those medical schools, not on that youngster. Years later, I had another experience. I went to a neighboring state on a private visit. I was in a very remote farm. The nearest small town was about 20 kilometers away with a horrible road. And there was some altercation on an irrigation canal about the rights to water. And one fellow was beaten up very badly. He sustained a head injury. An old lady, my wife's grandmother, knew that man who was injured. He was a distant relation. She was very distraught. Now there was a hospital, a private hospital, established by the family. A doctor was there. He was attending on the patient. I did not want to go there because, here is a collector from a neighboring state who comes there. The doctor would be petrified, so I thought I should stay away. But the lady was very nervous and she was shedding copious tears. And after some time I could not take it. I said, all right, let me go and see the patient. I went there. And thank God I went there. That physician was doing exactly everything wrong. We have a simple rule. When there is a head injury, you always try and make sure that there is no excessive edema. There is no possibility of more fluid collection. So raise the head end of the bed to drain off the fluid, as opposed to other cases of emergency where normally the foot end of the bed is raised. Because then, when a patient is in shock, you try and help the blood flow into the brain. Now this poor doctor simply understood it was a crisis, it was an emergency, it was a life-threatening situation. The general rule is raise the foot end, and therefore he raised the foot end. I asked him why did he raise the foot end. He said, sir, it's an emergency case, it's a serious case. So I was patient, I explained to him, and then we raised the head end. Then I saw an intravenous drip running rapidly. The second rule in a head injury case is never pump more fluids. If you have to give fluids, they must be in very small quantities. They're isotonic fluids. Only for intravenous drug administration, we allow fluids so that it becomes easy instead of trying to catch the vein every time. Now here, he was running fluid. It was literally running. I said, why? He said, sir, patient is serious. And the patient who came with some degree of head injury, but was still conscious, was slowly dripping into unconsciousness. And he would surely have been killed by this doctor in the next few hours. I can give many more examples. We may not be able to save lives, but for heaven's sake, do not kill because the patient comes to the hospital. We owe it to ourselves. And that means our medical education must be completely reoriented. How to save lives first. Management of medical emergencies. How do you deal with what we call tropical medicine? Because for the Westerners who write these wonderful textbooks, and they are glorious textbooks, no question about it, these are atypical, uncommon problems of the tropics. But for us, these are the real day-to-day problems. If you do not know how to deal with a case of malaria, or typhoid, or many other easily curable, or many other preventable diseases, there is no point talking of the fancy, highfalutin things. We owe it to ourselves to be first-rate clinicians in our environment. I see hundreds of cases of malaria every year in this country, which never are treated by a physician properly. They treat it for everything else but for malaria. There is a case in the neighboring state of Orissa when an Inspector of General Police, along with his driver, went to the hill areas, the tribal areas, fully mosquito infested, came back after 3 days or 4 days. Both were very ill with fever, chills and rigor. An old grandmother without medical training could tell you it's malaria. Everybody would understand except these well-trained doctors. Now when the driver went to the hospital, because he was an ordinary patient, the doctors treated him for malaria. When the IG went to the hospital, because he is an Inspector General of Police, they wanted to test his blood for malarial parasite. And of course they could not find malarial parasite. Sometimes you don't, sometimes you may not be a good clinician or lab technician to find that. Sometimes you may simply miss it, it may not be there. Now all good teachers tell us that if you don't find malarial parasite, it does not exclude malaria. But if you find the parasite, it confirms malaria. It's the golden rule, except for those doctors who try to treat that Inspector General of Police. They treated him for everything except malaria. 2 days later, he was in coma with cerebral malaria. They then airlifted him to Calcutta, and en route, he died. He died a needless death. I can quote many, many such examples. You have to learn medicine to suit our conditions, our people. You have to learn much more because you must be relevant to the rest of the world, because one day, many of you may like to go to other countries. Even otherwise, one day, in the not too distant future, the $3 trillion medical business in the world is going to come to India in a big measure, just as the software business now comes, because we can provide high quality healthcare in hospitals like this at a very low cost, with safety standards comparable to the best in the world. And the rest of the world is going to come to us because the cost of medical care in those countries, healthcare in those countries, is growing much faster than the economic growth rate, and therefore it's unsustainable. There's no way Britain, the rest of Europe, and the United States can afford to pay for the medical bills of their populations. They have to utilize our talents. Therefore, you have a wonderful future if you really equip yourselves with knowledge, with clinical skills and acumen. So, on this soil or abroad, you will have a wonderful future, but only if you are a first-rate clinician. Not otherwise. The world does not owe you a living. You have to prove your mettle. Indian physicians are outstanding across the world. They're highly respected. Please continue the tradition. Do well anywhere in the world, and do well, for heaven's sake, here for our people in India, because it is the sweat and toil of these people that gave you this education. It is this land of ours that made us what we are. We are Indian wherever we are. And as long as there is avoidable suffering, and that's what your logo says, as long as there is avoidable suffering, we are committing a great sin, and our work is not done. And there is no other profession that gives an opportunity as much as medical profession to prevent this avoidable suffering and to eliminate this avoidable suffering. You are privileged to live in this century with this technology. As the Director of Medical Education explained, GJ, the gastrojejunostomy, which you will not even see during your medical lives, that was the commonest surgery, a dozen surgeries every day in Guntur Medical School, particularly because that was the ulcerous area. And today it's ridiculous that we did that without any scientific basis. Was amazing, actually. You are lucky. You are lucky to live in a time and age when we are far more scientific, we have far greater advantages, and the knowledge of the rest of the world is now at your fingertips. For us, some of the diagnostic tools and techniques were simply textbook stuff in Harrison's medicine or something else. For you, they are real. And when they're not practiced here, in real time, you can actually now, through telemedicine, through internet, get it from Harvard Medical School and Care Foundation and many others. Enjoy this privilege. Enjoy a medical life. Have also some sense of fun without malice, because medical education without fun is meaningless. I'm sure Dr. Nageswara is going to scold me for telling you this, but all of us enjoyed our medical education. We studied, we also loved it, we had good fun. Good, clean fun, without malice. Enjoy that. Make the most of your lives, and above all, become truly wonderful citizens of whom we'll all be justly proud. I wish you all the very best, and I thank the Academy for this opportunity, and I wish this Academy a glorious future. This institution a wonderful future, and this first anniversary will be just a small little milestone, but I am sure in the years to come this will be a great center of learning and a center of curing and healing. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, sir. That is an excellent and one of the most oration we have ever heard. And when you are quoting that, my dear young friends, it shows the spirit of you. Within a few minutes you have spoke. Almost we can get all your simplicity and your approach towards medical profession, and you are giving the real values of our profession. Thank you very much, sir. Now I request all the prize winners of academics and cultural events to come near the dais.
First we will start with my chemistry. First Miss V. Krishnapriya to be take the prize from the hands of Chief Guest. To Parvati, having 75 out of 200 and is university second. Next is Miss K. Swati.
Ms. J.P. Murali for second prize.
Now coming to the Department of Physiology and first and third is Miss K. Shiv Parvati.
ఏదో బాగుంది
And a debate, Sharon Reddy and Shekhar secured the first place.
ఈ లైట్ కొంచెం అటు పెట్టి కూడా
P. Krishnasagar and B. Mahesh secured the second place.
And the second place goes to Mr. A. Vishnusagar.
It's the first prize in both classical and semi-classical dance. Here at his hand. Navya P. There's the first place in both classical and semi-classical dance. The second is Navya P. There's the second place in light music. Yes. And third place goes to Mr. Mahesh in Western dance. Mr. Mahesh gets third place in Western dance.
Rangoli, Radhika and Swati secured the first place. Secured the second place.
చూసానయ్యా నీ చూసా ఇద్దరు చేతుల్లో
Mr. Naresh gets the second. All friends cheer up. Second place goes to Miss A.S.L. Shravani. Sports are the events for sportuners and acts goes to Miss P. Anupama. Javelin throw, the first place goes to Miss P. Anupama. Third place goes to Miss P. Radhika. The runners-up goes to Miss P.
Now coming to city badminton double, the winners are P. Alekya and A. Shavanti. Devi and K. Radhika.
Marigold boys running 100 meters. The first place goes to Mr. K. Shankar Reddy. Running the first place goes to
200 meters. The first place goes to Big Hand.
shot put. The first place goes to Mr. K. Tejo Krishna. K. Tejo Krishna. Goes to Mr. K. Shankar Reddy.
Ravi Reddy. And the third place goes to K. Shankar Reddy. Please give them a big hand.
Please clap. Javelin throw. First place goes to Mr. K. Tejo. First place goes to Mr. K. Tejo Krishna. Third place goes to Mr. K. Madhav. The third was Chowdhury. The winner goes to Mr. B. Mahesh and team. To Mr. B. Mahesh and team. The runner single. Badminton, the first winner goes.
In running 100 meters, the first place goes to Siddhartha.
Kavita B. The second place goes to Miss Gina. Nursing student running 100 meters. The first Priya Ulhak running 200 meters. The first place goes to Mr. K.
The second place goes to M. Ramesh. The second place goes to K. Ravikumar. The third place goes to K. Srinivasarao. The third place goes to K. Srinivasarao Basha. The second place goes to M. Ramesh. And the third place goes to K. Ramgopal volleyball. Mr. Ravi and team. The winners in volleyball. And the runners are Mr. S. Chandrasekhar and team. Mr. M. Ramesh. Table tennis, the winner is Mr. M. Jayapraksh.
Places tomorrow. Thank you.
Sai Gopal Garu, given to by Sri N.
Parable which is motivating our students and even expressing the real values of life, and of course the more guidelines to the medical profession. Thank you very much, sir, on behalf of all of our students.
We'll start the program with the